Welcome to Spectrum News at 4. I am Rita Inung coming to you live from Uyo. Let's take a look at the headlines. Senate commences consideration of Electoral Act repeal bill. Army warns troops against selling arms and ammunition to sanction defaulters. Plus, Prime Minister Starmer announces visa-free travel for UK citizens to China. Stay tuned for detail of these stories and more in a moment. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned. We begin the news this hour from the national scene where the Senate has commenced consideration for the Electoral Act 2022 Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2026, moving into a closed-door session to review documents submitted by the chairman of the Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, Senator Simon Lalong. The closed session was convened to allow lawmakers to thoroughly examine the proposed amendments and supporting documents before engaging in further legislative debate on the bill. This development comes after the upper chamber deferred consideration of the bill, giving lawmakers time to prepare for a detailed review. According to the committee's findings, a clause-by-clause analysis of the bill indicates that enacting the legislation would leave Nigerians with an enduring legacy of electoral integrity, enhancing transparency and boosting public confidence. Meanwhile, the Senate has commenced investigation into the operational inefficiencies and insecurity in the Nigerian railway system following concerns over declining service delivery. The decision is to launch the probe followed a personal explanation raised during plenary today by a lawmaker who drew the attention of the Senate to the deteriorating state of key rail corridors in the country. Consequently, the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, inaugurated an ad hoc committee to carry out a holistic investigation into the Nigerian railway system. The committee has been mandated to examine the execution of rail projects funding, operational efficiency and service delivery, and is expected to submit its report within 6 weeks. Away from that, the Nigerian Army has warned officers against selling arms and ammunition, stressing that it is to deal ruthlessly with any personnel engaging in such unwholesome act. The warning was issued by the Chief of Civil Military Affairs at Army Headquarters, Major General M.A. Etsu Ndaji, during a sensitization workshop on human rights and professional conduct for troops of the 17th Brigade and Sector 2 Joint Task Force Northwest Operation. Ndaji also condemned the abuse of drugs and psychoactive substances by some personnel, noting that such behavior could worsen the country's security situation. He reiterated the Army's commitment to integrating human rights principles into all operations, noting that respect for human rights is both a legal obligation and a strategic imperative that enhances the Army's credibility and legitimacy. And now to the nation's leader, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has unveiled the Climate Resilient Livelihoods Empowerment Program for Displaced Population, a 10-year, $250 million initiative designed to restore livelihoods and empower Nigerians displaced by climate-related disasters. The president announced this in an opening address at a special event on climate-induced mobility held under Nigeria's chairmanship of the Rabat process, which brought together global leaders leaders and development partners to examine the links between climate change, migration, security and development. A statement by the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Yomi Odunga, said to the President, who was represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, stated that the Cleared 4 DPs will focus on empowering displaced persons through climate-smart agriculture, renewable energy entrepreneurship, climate data and digital employment, green value chains, as well as dedicated leadership tracks for women and youth. He added that the program reflects the federal government's shift from emergency responses to long-term, people-centered solutions that strengthen resilience and preserve human dignity. In another development, the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, has called on Nigerians to embrace tolerance and peaceful coexistence, describing unity as the bedrock for national development. Shettima made the call on Wednesday in Jos, Plateau State, during a courtesy visit to the Gbongwom Jos and Chairman of the Plateau State Council of Chiefs and Emirs, His Royal Majesty Jacob Jiang Buba. According to the Vice President, Nigeria's diversity should serve as a source of strength rather than division, noting that all citizens are bound by a shared heritage that outweighs ethnic or religious differences. The Vice President, who was in the state for the grand reception of Plateau State's Governor Caleb Mutfwang and other political leaders into the All Progressives Congress, commended traditional rulers for their role in maintaining social harmony. In a separate development, Anambra State's Governor Chukwuma Soludo has accused certain politicians of orchestrating the renewed Monday sit-at-home observed in parts of the southeast. He specifically pointed to Onitsha Main Market and Nnewi as areas most affected, describing the shutdown as a deliberate attempt to disrupt economic activities in the state. Speaking at a press briefing at the Lighthouse in Awka, Governor Soludo stated that the weekly closure of these major markets is not a coincidence but a coordinated effort by individuals he called enemies of the state and southeast region. He added that the development amounts to economic sabotage and emphasized that it will not be tolerated by his administration. The governor warned traders that 1 week closure imposed on Onitsha Main Market last Monday would remain in effect and could be extended by an additional 2 weeks if the market fails to open on a Monday after the current sanction expires. And moving now to Africa, where a court in Uganda has granted bail to Sarah Breed, a leading human rights activist detained ahead of the country's general elections. Breed, head of Kampala-based Center for Constitutional Governance, CCG, was arrested on December 30 after questioning the accuracy of the voters' register. Authorities later charged her with offenses linked to the alleged unlawful disclosure of voter information on Wednesday. Magistrate Winnie Nankaya Jatiko ordered her release, saying she had met all the conditions required for bail. Her arrest drew criticism from right groups who said it was a part of a broader crackdown on dissent before the January 15th election. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch had called for her immediate release, while CCG said she was being targeted for defending the rights of marginalized groups. And still in Africa, a partial collapse at a gold mine in South Sudan reportedly killed 13 people and injured 6. According to the Sudanese Mineral Resources Company, SMRC, the accident happened last Friday at 5 abandoned shafts in the UMM Fakong mine in the South Kofodan. Since fighting began in April 2023 between the army and the paramilitary rapid support forces, both sides have relied heavily on the country's gold industry alongside foreign support to fund the war. Despite the war, Sudan's gold production reached 70 tons in 2025, the highest in 5 years. However, much of the gold is smuggled across borders into Chad, South Sudan and Egypt before reaching global markets like the United Arab Emirates. On the foreign scene, Prime Minister Keir Starmer has announced during a visit to Beijing that UK citizens will be able to travel visa-free to China for trips under 30 days. The change brings the UK in line with countries including France, Germany, Italy, Australia and Japan. Recall that the Prime Minister had earlier said that relationship between the UK and China was in a good, strong place after talks with Chinese leader Xi Jinping in Beijing. And still on the foreign scene, a U.S. federal judge temporarily blocked the administration of President Donald Trump from detaining refugees in Minnesota awaiting permanent resident status and ordered the release of those in detention. Trump had sent thousands of federal immigration agents to the Democratic state as part of a sweeping crackdown that has sparked outrage over 2 civilian deaths at the hands of officers. Authorities launched a program this month to re-examine the legal status of the approximately 5,600 refugees in Minnesota who had not yet been given green cards. In his order, U.S. District Judge John Chuham said that Trump's administration could continue to enforce immigration laws and review refugee status, but it must not do so without arresting and detaining refugees. And still to come in the news. Spain announces 2026 World Cup in tennis. Stay tuned for detail of this story and even more stories to come in a moment. Special thanks for staying tuned and welcome back to Spectrum News within the hour. Going now to our business news, the World Bank under Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning has engaged the Nigeria Governors Forum, NGF, to support the implementation of governance reforms in the management of basic education and primary health care across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. The national coordinator of the Hope Gov program, Dr. Asad Hassan, who led members of the National Program Coordination Unit on the advocacy visit in Abuja, described the Nigeria Governors Forum as a critical platform for strengthening intergovernmental coordination to ensure the successful implementation of the program. Dr. Assad hailed the forum for its leadership in championing strategic interventions aimed at promoting governance, service delivery and outcomes in the basic education and primary healthcare sectors in the country. He stated that the program is designed to maximize federal and state funds at the facility level in the health and basic education sectors, while reinforcing transparency and monitoring of intergovernmental transfers and its expenditure. Still in business, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has opened 50 oil and gas blocks across 5 sedimentary basins for bidding and exploration in the 2025 licensing round, warning that only technically competent and financially strong firms will be allowed to scale through the process. The Commission said the exercise is designed to eliminate speculative participation and reposition Nigeria's upstream sector as a transparent, rule-based destination for long-term investment. The chief executive of the NUPRC, Oritse Meyiwa Enyeson, made this known during the 2025 licensing round pre-bid webinar, where the regulator outlined the framework evaluation criteria and commercial terms guiding the bid process. Enyeson said that the licensing round should be viewed as a strategic intervention to grow reserves, improve production, and strengthen Nigeria's energy security in a rapidly evolving global energy landscape. In health, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has clarified that it has not shut down any alcohol-producing company while enforcing the ban on alcoholic beverages in sachets and small plastic or glass bottles below 200 milliliters. The agency said the enforcement, in line with a recent resolution of the Nigerian Senate and supported by the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, is aimed at protecting public health, especially children, adolescents and young adults from the harmful use of alcohol. Addressing public concerns, NAFDAC Director General Professor Mojisola Adeyeye said the agency's action targets only alcohol packaged in sachets and containers smaller than 200 milliliters, not manufacturers. In a statement today, Adeyeye explained that the policy is intended as a public health intervention rather than a punitive measure. Adeyeye noted that the widespread availability of high alcohol content drink in sachets and small containers has contributed to alcohol misuse among minors and some commercial drivers. To sports news now, where Spain's Football Federation has said that Spain will be based in the city of Chattanooga during the World Cup, around 2 hours from Atlanta, where they will play 2 of their 3 group stage matches. The 2010 World Cup winners will play Cape Verde and Saudi Arabia on June 15 and 21 respectively in Atlanta. Their final Group H match will be against 2-time winners Uruguay in the Mexican city of Guadalajara. Spain are the top-ranked team by world governing body FIFA and one of the big favorites for the World Cup in Canada, Mexico and the United States, which runs from June 11th to July 19th. And still in sports, the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has officially dismissed a protest made by the Fédération Royale Marocaine de Football (FRMF) concerning alleged infractions committed by the Fédération Sénégalaise de Football (FSF) during the 2025 African Cup of Nations AFCON final. CAF disclosed this in a statement via the official website. Recall that Morocco had submitted an appeal to CAF under Articles 82 and 84 regarding Senegal's conduct during the AFCON final. Morocco's protest was centered around purported violations of Article 82 and 84 of the AFCON regulations, specifically in relation to the AFCON final. Article 82 states that any team that withdraws, refuses to play, or leaves the pitch before the end of the match without referee's authorization must be considered the loser and eliminated from the competition. On our entertainment news, Grammy-winning singer Burna Boy has claimed he resolved a feud with South African rapper AKA before his tragic death. In a posthumous birthday message on social media, Burna Boy expressed regret that the duo never got to collaborate or execute their plans. The feud between Burna Boy and AKA began in 2019 after AKA reportedly encouraged xenophobic attacks against Nigerians in South Africa, prompting Burna Boy to threaten to deal with him if they ever met. AKA was reportedly shot dead outside a restaurant in Durban on February 10, 2023, with trial into his murder ongoing. And that's all we have for you on the news at 4 on Spectrum TV. Do make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.com. You have been watching Spectrum News at 4. I am Rita In. Enjoy the rest of your day.